Marty's not here next month. I'm not here next month. Next month. Oh, I'm here today though.
Yeah, you'll still get the same, oh, there's Leslie right there.
Good.
You'll still get the same emails, and when you get that email, send me an email. I'm not gonna be here.
That answers that question. Ignore my phone call.
I know, I'm just shutting the car off.
Hi, kid.
Hi. Thank you.
Something.
Well, you know, Hammer too.
Yeah, and unicorns. Everything is good.
You actually
Oh,
take
I'm fine.
responsibility?
No, but it's an open dream.
Good to be seen.
What time you open it up on Thursday?
Thursday's grand.
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock?
We'll be there.
All right. We'll have to be there at 12:01. I got you.
It'll be many hours.
Yeah. So, Mike Cruz down here. I don't know, last weekend,
You know, here's the thing.
week ago.
It's a no-lose game. If I was a coach in those, I've often said, and they didn't fit in that position plenty of time. I pull out all the Statue of Liberty, but what do you have to lose? Nobody's giving
Yeah.
Longhorn a chance. You know, Alabama's
Yeah,
gonna,
then we had,
why not go? I don't-
Yeah.
Sure.
There was a,
Which
uh,
I'm great.
there was a wedding.
You guys could have nobody returning and you still end up in the top 25.
Right.
The
Not this year. I don't think we're right.
bus device.
You two.
I remember.
Huh?
Yeah, the wedding shower. Yeah.
No, you will be.
They were all like that.
I enjoyed-
I mean, you could go to Alabama and end up, they bump you up to 25. Anyway, I think it's, I mean, it's yours to grab, and it's a great opportunity. Yeah, well, they hate Texas. I mean, the state
That was cool.
and in
Yeah.
UT,
One of them,
That was.
they hate us.
the
Yeah.
plot,
Y'all ready?
that was full.
Yeah.
The
Ready when you are,
permit is
Turner?
still with us.
Call to order the City of Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, August 30th, 2022 at 5:02 PM. This time we are going to conduct a public hearing. The Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing on the following. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. Item 2.1, VC 22-001688. Alley closure. Applicants are requesting to close an unused portion of an alley directly behind their properties located at 135 6th Street, 132 Gulf Street. The portion is approximately 215 feet long and dead ends at their property lines. Applicant David and Jennifer Kincaid and Arthur and Deanne Ash, property location 135 6th Street and 132 Gulf Street. Would you like to say something? Oh, okay. Item 2.2, correct me if I'm wrong, but this has been pulled from the items of consideration, but we're going to continue with the public hearing for this.
The items, it has been pulled some items for consideration, but we'll continue to have, we'll have the public hearing.
Item 2.2, FPLT 22-001002, final plat of Agape Coastal Estates condominiums, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, block 1, being a replat of lot 1R, block 1, state land survey on Mustang Island, City of Port Aransas, in Nueces County, Texas, according to the plat recorded in volume 56, page 152, map records of Nueces County, Texas. Applicant Kelby and Rachel McCann, Zachary and Ainsa Smith, and Port Aransas Cottages LLC, Jerry Ferris, managing member, property location 100 Dunes Drive.
I do want to.
Come on, Ms. Fulton, how are you?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Kathy Fulton, and right now I'm at 619 East Avenue B. On this one, even though it's been pulled, again, I'm going to even say that the public hearing is in question because what's been pulled here is a plat that has not been approved and actually has been rejected now twice by the city engineer. The 1995 platting of the lots back then, which it was just a lot, a one long lot back then that was done by Bill Austin and Mark Rossi. And then they sold it to Katrina Jenkins, and it just stayed that way. And so what's happened is this was approved for flex unit development by the council, but that's all that was approved was a flex unit designation. And what was agreed was that there would be 3 lots And then could be 3 structures for those lots. So and it's a condominium, it's a condominium establishment or regime. Therefore, you can't selectively have one part of it separated from the other. The reason I'm saying this is that currently over 3 feet of fill since last Thursday, have been brought in and spread out on part of this unplatted, and I do want to make sure it's not platted because the plat's been rejected condominium deal. This is against our code. It has no drainage plan. It's cited here in urban engineers and both the previous rejection and this one, that the drainage is not established. It needs a preliminary plat. This is considered a major development. And so for all these reasons, I'm just going to say this shouldn't even be considered for the public hearing because nothing's been approved. All they've got is a non-recognized county plat that's just a specification of where the lots are so that they could create the condominium regime. That's all that is. It is not approved. It doesn't have all the stuff that's required for a preliminary plat or a final plat. And so to further go on, I think I'll make the rest of mine in a public comment about the dune permit since they all tie together. But I do want to say the city should not have issued, and I do not understand how it's possible that the city's allowing somebody to build without a plat, because it says right there at the beginning of the platting process, you can't get a permit unless it's been platted. All right. And y'all all know this. I know you know this. So I would suggest you look at this and then try to figure out why is this person getting such a special treatment? Because I bet a lot of you haven't gotten that special treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bolton. Anybody else like to comment on FPLT 22-001002? Moving on. Item 2.3, PPLT and FPLT 22-001447. Blue Marlin subdivision block 1, lots 1 through 3, and Blue Marlin NUD subdivision block 2, lots 1 through 33. Being a final plat of an existing 24.582 acre tract comprising portions of lots 1 through 3 and 8 through 10, block 51, lots 1 through 10, blocks 49 and 50, lots 4 through 7, block 48. State Land Surveys, Mustang Island, Nueces County, Texas, is shown on the map of public land on Mustang Island dated May 1945, as filed in the General Land Office in Austin, Texas. Said lots 3 through 5, block 51, also being referenced in a land award and receipt from the state of Texas on behalf of the Permanent School Fund to MDW Financial Limited Partnership, and document number 201-303-3412, recorded in official public records of Nueces County, Texas. Applicant Blue Marlin Holdings LLC, Gabriel Goodman, property location 3100 block of Highway 361.
And I just want to mention here that we're only taking up the preliminary plat. So at the time that we put the public hearing in, it was going to be both. It's not, it is just the preliminary plat, and that's reflected in the agenda item topic.
Item number 3, citizen comments and reports. At this time, comments will be taken from the audience on any subject matter. Please limit comments to 3 minutes in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. The Planning and Zoning Commission may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. Ms. Bolton.
Okay, because I didn't want to worry about that 3-minute thing. Okay, Kathy Fulton again, and I want to say, so discuss and take action on this dune permit, which is inside of the 1,000-foot dune line, so it has to apply to the coastal management plan. And so for starters, and though I know there's a correction made, this is considered large scale construction because it is over 5,000 square feet in area and because it's proposing 3 stories in height. But the main thing about that is that it also has to have a plat that's been approved by the city in order to even make this application in the first place. So I don't understand why this isn't being withdrawn. And I also want to say there are other problems with it, because what's also not mentioned, though I know that the coastal management plan requires only mitigating for critical dune, and there is quite a critical bit of critical dune. They intend to put it over there by the Dunes condo parking lot. So, you know, to mitigate over there by Dunes condominium, but I bet they haven't talked to them because I know that parking lot well. And the thing is, they would actually have to come through that parking lot to even do that and get permission from them. But then what's that going to do to the water that backs up in the Dunes parking lot as it is, especially almost up to those parking garages at times? Because that will create a problem. Again, there's no drainage plan that's been filed. So that's a big deal. Nothing's been hammered out on any of this. But the other thing is, this is all in that section, in that part east of Dune Street, it is all jurisdictional wetland. So there is also going to need to be a deal with the Army Corps that will require wetland mitigation for what he's putting in. And where is that going to go? And I get that it's not required in part of the coastal management plan because we let the Army Corps deal with that. But the problem is, where is that going to go? That's a really narrow tract. And how are they going to do it? He can't just go across all those wetlands, by the way. If you really look at the maps closely, you really can't just go through all those wetlands to try to also get over there to mitigate the critical dune at the Dunes parking lot area. That won't work. That really won't work. You can't, because you can't fill in wetlands. That's the thing people need to know. I think some people here know that. You can dig in a wetland, oddly enough, but you can't fill them in. So how he's planning on doing this without impeding on the current wetlands over there, again, there's not enough in this to even clarify any of this information. This is a very incomplete application. Thank you.
I guess full. Anyone else? And items for consideration 4.1 is not happening. Item 4.2, discuss and take action on VC 22-001688 alley closure. Applicants are requesting to close an unused portion of an alley directly behind their properties located at 135-6 and 132 Gulf Street. The portion is approximately 215 feet long and dead ends at the property lines. Applicant David and Jennifer Kincaid, Arthur and Deanne Ash, property location 135 6th Street, 132 Gulf Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission. So the diagram kind of shows you the area that's being requested be closed. There's really no discussions with city manager and our review of the location. Part of it had been closed previously. There's really no value to this particular property. We found no compelling reason to object to the request to close it. So notices went out. Didn't look like anybody was in objection to that. All parties that are adjacent to this have been contacted and are aware that they will need, if approved, will need to replat this property into their own. So like I said, with that, we'll recommend approval. I think is the applicant here. So we have the applicant here if there's really any questions, but it's a pretty straightforward proposition. And of course, we're always looking to get the property back on tax rolls when it has no value to the city or citizens.
And you'll see in the application, the first two property owners were applicants, and then in talking to their neighbors, other people wanted to join them. And you'll see those people have joined via email that I've included in your packet to extend that a little bit further.
And this is one of those alleys that we've got over this part. It's a lot of them even can't even get a car down them anymore because they're not really usable.
Right now, unfortunately, there is a storage building.
Okay, like the storage building's in the alley.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Just a 10-foot alley,
It is at 20.
20 foot.
10 goes to people on the east and 10 goes to people on the west.
Correct. That's where it came from. So it goes back there.
Motion.
Second. Marty found his motion to approve. I'll go back here to keep this official. Motion VC 22-001688. Mike Dayon has seconded the motion.
Okay, it's Barney Farley,
Yes.
Nick Lorette.
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Leslie Smith,
Yes.
Marty Phelan,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Chad Schmidas.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item
Oh,
4.
20.
So this will go to council for their approval of the recommendation. And then, like I said, it'll be 3 readings.
Got it. No.
The council meeting will be the first. So it'll be 2 more readings after that, but
Item 4.4, discuss and take action on PPLT 22-00147 preliminary plats of Blue Marlin subdivision, block 1, lots 1 through 3, and Blue Marlin NUD subdivision, block 2, lots 1 through 30. The applicant, Blue Marlin Holdings LLC, Gabriel Goodman, property location 3100 block of Highway 361.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission. So this is again the track probably most notably where the the Texan actually is now part of that, was part of the original, what we refer to as the GLO track. So this is the remaining part of that original track. I think Nicole had handed out some things that were updated. If you've had a chance to just look at those, it really just drew in some water lines, and our the project engineer is here, so I'd
So when,
yeah, that's fine.
so initially, this is a preliminary plat that had the Blue Marlin subdivision and the Blue Marlin NUD all as one plat. Moving through the process, we thought it was best to separate those as two separate plats. So there's going to be a Blue Marlin NUD preliminary plat and a Blue Marlin subdivision preliminary plat. One is the 3 major lots and one is the 32 lots of the NUD. And so it gets a little in the weeds when you're looking at all the information, because upon the initial review, they did split that. So you'll see one review on the NUD, one review on the subdivision, and then we just continued that through. When the final plat comes to you, it will come as 2 separate plats, 2 separate agenda item topics to keep that a little less convoluted. We had already posted the public hearing, so we weren't able to split that at this stage.
So we did provide a little bit greater level of detail. And James, I'll invite you to come up and kind of talk about the preliminary plat map that we've got there. So again, it did identify, this has been expressed as concerns before, drainage and also the utility layout. I think James wants to comment a little bit about what you're seeing there with what was brought in for utility. So I'll let you kind of talk about your plat.
The utilities that are drawn on the subdivision plan and also on the NUD plan are reflective of what we're basing our current design on, or what we're anticipating the development to go with at this point. They were requested by the review engineer, so we included that information in the preliminary plat at this point in time, so that you'd have an idea of where the water would come, where the sewer was going to go, where the drainage was going to go. Drainage wise, the entire property drains basically to the west to the ditch that crosses 361. And that's where everything is directed. Per the development, per the review engineer, we've limited the front 100 feet of drainage to 11th Street, and the rest of it will be taken on site via subsurface drainage to the actual ditch itself. I'm open to any questions that you guys might have.
Yes. So just keep in mind that the requirements on a preliminary plat is that he shows the utility layout. Doesn't require that this be the final layout, nor a specific project. It's just an idea that
It can
for
work.
this layout, it can work. And so again, I just want to make sure that we're good. We haven't always done that in the past. If it was available, it was available. So the level of detail I reference is actually drawing in lines, where they go, size, capacity, the whole thing. So it's like I said, it's something that is a stricter interpretation of what we've had in the past. So thank you for like I said, there was a lot of discussion as to the requirement as opposed to the interpretation, and James just graciously felt it was easier to just go ahead and provide the level of detail than argue about the semantics and the wording of the ordinance.
So the question on the urban engineering, item J, that's and be accompanied by a written memorandum from the water district stating that the district's authorized agent has reviewed, it says none provided.
Correct. So what you have in your package is the inquiry from us to all the utilities, water, electric, gas, and their recommendations. I talked to Scott Mack, the director, this morning, and just wanted to confirm, because I was anticipating that this question may come up, wanted to confirm and be able to tell you from Scott that he prefers the process, which we send him out the form that acknowledges the plat and allows him to comment any requirements, conditions, acceptance, or rejection. So that's the process that we've used, is we send out a form ourselves rather than
Having the. applicant do
having
it.
him write a memorandum saying it's acceptable. So that's what you have in the file.
And that's on page 79.
But I did want to call and get that directly from him to just make sure. Because it's a process that we've used for, well, all 10 years I've been here.
The 10 years.
We spoke directly with Scott and
Yeah.
went and talked to him about the alignment of all the utilities where they were, and made sure that everything met to his satisfaction.
So this proposal is for the preliminary plat
Preliminary plat.
for the NUD and the development. No, just the development.
No, it's for both.
Well,
It's
for
in
both.
two
It's in
separate
two separate
preliminary
pieces.
plats,
Two separate.
Two
documents.
separate-
preliminaries.
2 separate pages.
The documents are the approvals for the entire,
Okay, so we're being asked to approve the preliminary plat for both
Correct.
regimes.
Correct.
Right.
I didn't think we had NUDs on.
We
I
do.
thought we did away with NUDs
No.
and they put away into
Nope.
flexible development.
There
No.
were some changes, to NUDs, with the allowances to let lots go
Lots.
smaller.
lot
So
size.
the NUDs still have to meet the 5,000 square feet before they could go down smaller than that, based on some exceptions that they had. All of those exceptions went away. You can still have NUDs, you just can't have the smaller sizes.
At minimum 5,000 square foot lot size.
So it looks like some of them are even close to 7.
And I got to give hats off to you because I read this whole thing last night, which it was exhilarating. It's
been a-
It's been a lengthy process.
But starting on page 67 in the packet is where James starts breaking it out.
To
Because
separate.
originally it was in two, so he breaks out and makes it real clear, the breakout between the NUD and the other piece, and then addresses everything, and then you went back again for review, and there was a few more comments, and then you come back again, a few more comments, and it was,
And so in the packet, you've got the full approval from the city reviewing engineer on the NUD specifically. The handout that I gave you is on the subdivision specifically.
And there was a possibility that it could have been done in one plat. We just, and again, we didn't get much pushback from the engineer. That just it complicated. We'd never done it, and it wouldn't have been difficult at this point in time, but in the future, somebody pulling all this up, it would have complicated it. It would have been difficult to see one plat that had a NUD in conjunction with a non-NUD. It was just simpler, and we appreciate the understanding, and it did make it a lot easier. I think we made it a lot easier for you guys too.
on the drainage front, the east-west arrows, I'm assuming that's all subsurface. to
Yes,
get back
there'll be some surface drainage to collection, either grade inlets or curb inlets. It'll be taken into a subsurface conduit and it'll run back to the ditch. Again, there is a portion of the property that will drain to 11th Street, but we've limited that per the preliminary plat to the area of influence that was recommended by the review engineer. And then also TxDOT will limit what we can take to them. There's some driveway drainage, things like that, that will actually have to go there because it just ultimately will. But the majority of the site plan will actually end up subsurface through the subdivision through, and then on the backside of the nut through drainage easement.
I see on the approved jurisdictional determination that it included the land that Texan is currently on.
It used to be all one,
Right.
one
That
track.
doesn't change anything.
No.
Okay.
They can't put
No.
another, they can't put a second Texan next door.
Yeah, the
Right,
deed
that
restrictions are in there, that they
No.
can't build another one.
But interestingly enough, the
I just didn't know if it
In-
requires additional jurisdictional approval for the smaller piece now. I don't know.
No, it's
It's
all
on the parent track.
You can't
But-
double stand, triple
yeah,
stand.
but interesting, like I said, the difference in this track that we've, had discussions on in the past for a lot of different things. The number of acreage that was originally jurisdictionally wetlands that completely went away with the stroke of a pen and the change in the tidally influenced language that was put in place. And so 17 or so acres, I
It
think.
was a lot.
Uh,
16.
yeah.
16 acres.
Was originally wetlands that all became non-wetlands with because of this tidal influence determination. It's a lot.
Then before
Trivia.
that, it was non-jurisdictional.
Yeah.
Went to
Yeah.
It keeps going back and forth.
Yeah.
different administration in the
Yep.
White House,
I mean,
just the way it
You can
works.
change the rules pretty quickly.
wetlands trivia.
After being quietly shamed by Nick at last meeting for not have fully read one of these all the way until we were sitting here. I have reviewed all this, so if any commissioners have any comments or questions, please hit me with them if ever, at some point, if anybody's feeling comfortable or uncomfortable, I'd invite a motion one way or the
Like
other.
the utilities did
All
indicate their approval. And again, the final reconciliation with our review engineer said that he took no exceptions to it.
And if there is a motion, I think that it needs to be make sure that it's clear for each one.
Yes. Is there a different PPLT number?
Nope, they have the same number, which
so-
makes it a little.
So we
confusing.
should designate one as the subdivision and
Mhm. One
one
is
is
called, yep.
the
one-
NUD.
One is called the Blue Marlin subdivision, block 1, lots 1 through 3, and one is called the Blue Marlin NUD subdivision, block 2, lots 1 through 33.
What's gonna be the functional differentiation between the two?
Sorry, can you say that again?
What's gonna be the functional differentiation between the two? The
They're just
subdivision-
different uses.
Yeah.
The subdivision's got commercial and it's got some multifamily, some RV, and then the nut is actually. gonna be-
Cause you can't have the RVs and the nud and all that type of stuff,
So
right? So
the-
that's.
That's why they're separate. And
Functional.
then the actual nut is gonna be some kind of residential.
Yeah, the portion of that plat that's designated nut is confined to that use and only that use.
Yes. So that was the real reason.
That
to
was
break
why
it
we
out.
broke it out. Originally, it was one piece to look at the whole thing, but it was easier to break those two out because of the designation with the nut.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of council of PPLT 220147. Bear with me, preliminary plat for Blue Marlin subdivision, blocks 1, lot 1 through 3, and also Blue Marlin subdivision, block 2, lots 1 through 30.
Second,
Nick Lorette has motion to approve PPLT 22-00147 Blue Marlin subdivision block 1, lots 1 through 3, and Blue Marlin NUD subdivision block 2, lots 1 through 33. Mike Dayon has seconded the motion.
Okay.
And if you need me to read that all again, I will.
Nope, that's
Okay.
okay. Craig Scott,
Yes.
Marty Phelan,
Yes.
Leslie Smith. Yes. Mike Dayon,
yes.
Nick Lorette, Barney Farley,
Yes.
Chad Schmidas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Thank
Jay.
you.
Appreciate you.
Item 4.5, discuss and take action to confirm that dune permit BFDP 22-001366 is consistent with city's coastal management plan. The applicant proposes to build a 3-story, single-family residential building, a pool and a rear deck, entrance drive, fence, and landscaping. Applicant Kelby McCann, property location 100 Dunes Drive.
Thank you, Commissioner. So again, as it's laid out, this is in the dune protection area. There is, contrary to what you heard, there is no requirement that there be a plat filed for a dune permit. So that requirement just doesn't exist. So the dune permit is proper to be considered. Because again, the dune permit, if approved, never has to be acted on anyway. Anything changes with respect to how the dune permit is done would require a revision and a new dune permit. So
So there's a dune permit proposed. For something we don't know what's gonna happen yet. I mean, the
no, we have,
proposal was pulled for what they want to do on the property, right?
For the plat.
right,
For the
that-
plat, but the dune permit is in support.
for a different plat.
It's just,
Well, the property is already platted,
the property
The
as it
property
sits right now is
is
platted.
platted.
they are proposing a new replat based on their approved flexible development. Flexible development has been approved. This layout has been approved. They are working through the engineering aspects of getting that plat approved. This dune permit is being submitted for construction work that is going to happen on a portion of that plat.
The
Even if
existing
this-
approved plat.
Even if the, correct,
Yep.
the existing,
Right,
the
the existing
existing
platted lot
plat.
as it sits now.
one big lot, lot 1R.
And this is not registered as a subdivision. Correct?
Correct.
No,
Okay, well, that's
This is lot 1R.
1659-13 says, I mean, it's all specific to, you need a plat if it's a subdivision.
Right.
This is not a
This is
subdivision.
not a
Correct.
subdivision.
This
This
is
is an
a
existing lot.
single platted lot, lot 1R. There is a proposal to replat that into a subdivision that has not occurred yet.
Got it. But presently, it is not a subdivision, therefore 1659.
Does not apply.
13
Correct.
does not apply.
Correct.
So we have an approved plat right now on the books,
It is
Yes.
lot 1R.
that one.
Mhm.
So we have a dune permit proposal in support of that plat.
Which is also going to conform to the proposed replat of that property based on the approved flexible
I'm just
development.
trying to figure out the timeline. I don't want to get in front of myself, right?
Right.
Sure.
So we have the
So-
approved plat right now
Right.
on the books,
It's been platted that way for years.
and it's sitting out there. So this dune permit is in support of the development of that flat property.
It's both.
Right. So the dune permit. The impact that it's proposing through this dune permit would be for that plat if approved. The plat that will eventually come to you.
But if
Right.
that plat is never approved, they could still build what he's proposing to build with this dune permit based on how the property is platted right now.
Okay.
He does not need the
He doesn't need the
proposed
other to be a
plat to be approved in order to be able
Okay,
to
so
build
the
it.
proposed replat, no matter what, is not going to affect the proposal in this dune permit, right?
Correct.
You have a plat, he has a proposal, he needs the dune permit to support that. And above and beyond that, he's gonna look to replat that proposal. And if that changes somehow the impacts on the dunes, then he'd be obligated to come back in
with a revised.
and get a
Correct.
new dune
Correct.
permit,
Right,
right? Just
absolutely.
to understand the sequencing of events, so.
Right.
But the only thing that's on the table in this piece is the dune permit. For what we're talking about now, whatever may happen, may or may not
May or may
happen,
not happen.
it's totally irrelevant
Correct.
to the scope of this dune permit. For the plat that's already approved, right? We're good
Not,
with
not
that?
approved, just the existing plat.
The existing
The
plat.
existing plat. That lot is platted, contrary to again what you
All right, so I
heard.
just want to make sure I'm getting the sequencing right. So this dune permit, limited scope on what's already out there. And
Right.
whatever happens on Magic Land in 2 months or 2 years is Magic Land. And that will drive us back into another review if in fact. it
Sure, and we
impacts the-
pretty regularly see dune permits prior to plats of subdivisions. In your bigger areas, like
Well, and-
Palmia, Cinnamon Shore, you see the dune permits first because you want that approved before you
Exactly.
can go in and do the rest of the work.
You asked for the timeline. There's no point in spending a lot of additional resources, time and money if the dune permit itself isn't approved. And again, that's a multi-layer process too, not just you guys. You make the recommendation, then it goes to GLO, they get their bite at the apple. And then that along with the GLO's comments goes to council for final
Okay,
thumbs up or down.
And
I have a
the-
clear understanding.
the way that kind of everything is timed out now, I think the dune permit and the plat could possibly go to city council at the same exact time,
But that's.
but that's
there's a lot to
subjective.
check, Yeah.
And Marty, the comment about the wetlands, you remember this probably 12 or 15 months ago when site work started on that property. You showed up over there,
Mhm.
a lot of people showed up over there,
Mm.
and we got the determination letter, and there are some jurisdictional wetlands that are in that property, but they're not where this mitigation site is.
Yeah,
Or is it blocking you? I mean, I'm looking at it, you can get to the mitigation site without going over the
Right,
jurisdiction.
and we have we have the jurisdictional letter determination. And
you
again,
guys
as
are
I've
providing
often said, because property is is wet, doesn't mean it's wetlands.
Mhm.
And so that's, like I said, it's the Army Corps that determines that, not us. And again, we do dump that responsibility back on the developer to adhere to that. He could build right over it, but the penalties are severe and significant. And so that's just, we don't see that happening.
Chad, how are you showing that you can access that corner down there where they're gonna mitigate?
If you look right here, that's, I don't know the exact, but I'm assuming you got at least 10 feet right here, which you can get equipment in through there to get into the mitigation site right here. I know there was conversation about coming this way to me, and applicants here, we can ask him too. What's the plan on getting to the mitigation site from?
Honestly, I'd have to talk around.
That's
Yeah.
I can
I
understand
mean,
that. being-
I'm looking at it here and it looks like you've got the distance to do it.
Well, and also, people who do dune permits and mitigation, there's temporary impact versus impacts, right? When you're doing mitigation, the GLO allows for temporary impacts, which to mitigate, which are different than this. Yeah.
But Barney, that's, if you look over here,
Yeah, what page number you got?
I am on page 112 of 148.
Yeah.
And if you look running along the north side of the property there, you've got a pretty good, setback. I mean, if you can get a skid steer through a 5-foot
Yeah.
setback to dig a pool, I'm pretty sure you can get whatever you need to through that 10 feet.
And ultimately, unless it were landlocked and impossible, we'd have a little bit more concern. How they do it is up to them. If they have to make,
There's a map.
50 trips with a skid steer, that's what they have to do because of the limitation.
There's a map with red contour lines.
And everybody, what is submitted?
Yeah, please come to the mic and so that we get you on the record. State your name and address, please.
Kathy Fulton, and
Okay.
what is submitted with this dune permit is this unapproved plat, not the one that was done for the lot back in 1995, but this is what's submitted, is the one that's been rejected. So I don't know how y'all play all these games with this, but in the end, this is the one that's been rejected twice. Therefore, doesn't this really need to be approved first in order to make this even feasible? Thank you.
As we said, that plat is irrelevant because it's not been approved. It may never be approved and it has no bearing on the
So just
The dune
to be
permit.
clear though, I just want to scratch that itch. If in fact that gets proposed again. And it comes back up, then they would be obligated if it changes, and the impact on dues to come back in to do it then, right? That's the
Anytime
process.
anything changes in a dune
Right.
permit,
Yes,
you're
right.
obligated to.
on
do
the
an amendment.
impact to the dunes. So
Yeah,
there was,
so-
yeah, if
We're looking at this dune permit relative to the way it's planted today.
correct.
Right.
This
That's-
existing lot with the existing uses that are allowed by our existing ordinance.
Okay, I just want to be clear, and I want it on
Now, I,
YouTube and. wherever else.
you're exactly right.
I wanna-
The only question I have on it is, I just wanted to confirm, we don't have to have a drainage plan in place for this, correct?
For the dune permit, no,
Not for the-
Okay.
no. Now, with that said, if the engineer felt that there was some impact to the dune hydrology, they'd reference it, but again, they're dunes. So at this point, without it, this is only permission to,
For mitigation and moving.
For mitigation,
Yeah,
moving.
So that's why we don't have
Right.
to address the drainage. to
Correct.
this. Okay.
Now, building permits still have to address the drainage, but in
Yes.
the dunes, you don't have the same dynamics as you have,
I know, that's what I
Where-
assumed. I just
which is
wanted to
why we don't
confirm.
allow pervious, impervious cover for parking and the other things to help with the drainage in the dune area. So there are some checks and balances in place, but good question. You see the final comments from the engineer. Does find that it is consistent with our coastal management plan. So staff recommends approval.
Make a motion to approve item 4.5, that dune permit BFDP 22-001366 is consistent with the city's coastal management plan.
I'll say. Motion on the table, so. Craig's got his motion to approve.
Did we
I'm
mention
sorry,
the other
Craig
pictures?
got a second, Mike down, motion to
A
approve.
motion.
Did we mention the pictures?
Oh, well, yeah, we got to give credit where credit due. Unlike staff who obviously is directionally challenged, our chairman found that the photographs in support of it, which don't change the fact that the areas were reversed. The photos were taken, the the titles of the photos were basically the direction that they were looking, not the directions they were taken from, and Chad did catch that, so if it was,
That's your amendment.
yeah, so it's a good catch, but it's like, I said, instead of looking to the northwest, it was being,
And I have,
Taken from the
I
south,
did
yeah.
hand these packets out to you guys that have the no exceptions letter from the reviewing engineer. It also has the corrected pictures.
titles of
So-
photos that corrected the direction. from which
These photos have been, the dune permit has been amended to include these photos rather than the ones in your packet. So any motion and any approval will be the dune permit with these new photos.
Which are the same photos, just the
The
legend-
labels are
labels
changed.
are different.
A northeast changes to a northwest. You don't need to, you don't need to redo the motion because it's already
Yeah.
included on our end. It just is not printed in your packet.
And with that, I guess I can say it is it possible just to ask staff to review the property description to make sure it is exactly right before it goes to council, if it makes it past this?
Yeah.
Just to make sure that the property description is, because we talked about lot 1R, we talked about lot 3 in the future plat, but right now there is no plat in place. There is no future plat.
No future plan.
So can we
The
make sure?
existing plat lot, just lot 1R.
Can we make sure that the
Yes.
property description is 100% correct? Or wherever it stands on that day?
Yes, so it could be
Correct.
that it changes prior to that.
Understood.
So it's, I don't know if we change it now and change it later.
I just say we go with what we have now.
Okay.
We have to.
I mean, we know where the area is. We know where
Yes.
the property is.
Here.
But when it
So
hits,
it's
when it
what
hits
he's talking
council, I
about
just
is
want it
right
to be
there.
correct of how the property stands.
Right, because it'll be a inaccurate representation of what we approved.
It's right here.
if the nomenclature claims.
Correct. So
It's not Technically, the-
with that, there's a motion on the floor.
yeah, they're not calling it a legal description there, so I think we're okay. It's a property description.
Thank you.
So whatever the applicable property description at the time is what.
We will
use.
make
How about
sure it's
that?
in
We
there.
know what the coordinates are.
All right.
That I think we're ready to call the roll.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're-
Barney Farley,
No,
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Leslie Smith,
Yes.
Marty Phelan.
No.
And Chad Schmidas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
For the record, I'd like to hear why two people voted.
Just,
no.
please state your name and.
My name is Kelly McCann, P and Z. There's merits to why we vote in P and Z, and it's generally based on ordinance or planning or zoning. And so what ordinances or plans or zones did this plat not meet for approval today?
I'm not entirely convinced. Process clearly represents what where we're gonna wind up. And relative to where you want to develop it, to where this dune is gonna wind up. So I just want to be clear. on
So,
that.
but,
So I,
so we voted on something that doesn't exist. Because that doesn't exist, that the lot stands as 1R. That's what you're voting on today. And so the other plat doesn't even exist. And so based
okay,
on,
so based on this one then, no, it's a good point. I think I'll change to yes. Because that is the 1R
yes,
with
sir.
the proposal, nothing else, and everything else comes back.
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Insight.
I'm still not convinced about the mitigation. It's, we went, okay, we're gonna mitigate, we're gonna move this property over here, we're gonna go down the fence line there, which we went and looked at it yesterday or the other day. So basically, you're gonna make a road right there on the north end, a trail. You're gonna knock down these dunes and you're gonna truck it back to the opposite corner back to there.
And so,
Okay,
and so,
then when that's done, then you're gonna mitigate the road that you made to carry the mitigation out. So
Okay.
I don't know, that just doesn't sound too clean cut to me.
sure.
So that's why I voted
I'm
no.
not here to argue. I just wanted to have it on record why it was. voted.
Sure,
That's all.
right,
I
yeah.
appreciate your
I
time.
have no problem with that.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you calling me on that too, because I want to be clear, because I want to be real clear what we're approving, what we're not approving.
Appreciate that. Thank you,
So I
sir.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Item 4.6. Discuss and take action to confirm that dune permit BFDP 22-001689 is consistent with the city's coastal management plan. The applicant proposed dune permit will allow for the development of the Village South area of Palmia Beach subdivision applicant KM Beach LLC, property location 3900 block of Highway 361.
Thank you, Chairman, and Stephen, I'll let you make your way up here. So this is as
It's a little bigger one.
we often see, when a new section of a planned unit development kind of gets ready to come online, they'll do a dune permit in advance of that. This does represent 83 lots. 83 lots
in the 1,000 foot.
That are within the 1,000 foot. So Stephen, if you'll want to go ahead and kind of,
This is, as Rick said, for the Water's Edge or Camilla Beach South area. This area actually had a dune permit on it previously when it was Beach and Golf South associated with a Newport Beach and Golf Course. And at that time in 2006, when that dune permit was approved, it was, the golf course was on the west side, the east side was primarily residential, and we carved out kind of buildable areas. Had impacts approved, mitigation sites approved, and the golf course, of course, was built, but the residential area really never developed. That was back in 2006. Flash forward to 2020, it's got a different property owner. They in 2020, they did a major PUD amendment in which the golf course was kind of reallocated to become residential areas. But when they looked at doing the eastern residential areas, they kind of honored that line that was previously established by the 2006 dune permit. There are a few impacts, but it's really just transitioning into existing dunes that may have migrated, over the last 16 years east of that previously established line. But for the most part, we're just kind of reestablishing areas that were already established as buildable back in 2006. There's 83 lots proposed that are within the 1,000-foot dune protection area. I think our total impacts is 6,500 cubic yards, which is relatively low for a development of this size. And again, that's mostly attributed to us trying to honor what was previously established. If there are any questions, be happy to answer.
I'm gonna start by helping you help Arnie. So how, I read it last night. How is the proposed mitigation going to happen on?
Basically, any critical dunes that we impact, we will create mitigation areas. I guess the best exhibit in your packet in the dune permit to look at is attachment number 4.
Page 137.
And you intend to mitigate a larger area than you're going to impact. From what I
It's
can see.
slightly larger.
Right.
Generally you just try to do a 1-to-1 ratio.
1-to-1 is
I mean, I
is
think
kind of
it's like
required,
27
adjusted.
cubic yards.
Mm.
It's a little bit more.
This is a good amount more.
All of our proposed mitigation is, of course, seaward of all our development. It's basically going to bolster the existing dunes that are already there in areas that either don't have dunes or have smaller dunes that will build up. But in that attachment number 4, all the red areas are impacts and the green areas are mitigation sites.
Which page are you on right now?
137.
137. So correct me if I'm wrong on this one, you had the proposal back in the old days on how we were gonna build this on 2006 or whenever the thing was first proposed. The dunes over the last 15 years, 20 years have changed, migrated a little bit. You're gonna essentially honor that the original protocols, if you want to call it that, and taking some of the stuff that have changed and the mitigation plan essentially either establishes dunes or increases the height and of the existing dunes that are there. Is that
Yes,
it
sir.
in a nutshell? So for the most part, anything that blew off, migrated off and stuff like that goes back and creates a higher, probably more effective barrier.
Yes.
So it's there. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, one thing we're doing a little different is, back in the olden days, a lot of times we'd go up at like a 2-to-1 slope, which is on the steeper end of a dune slope. Nowadays we try to do something a little less steep, which is 3-to-1. So that's probably attributing to some of the impacts, because if you're going from a steeper to a less gradual slope, you're gonna be shaving off the areas, top of the areas of dunes that maybe you didn't before, but we'll end up with a much gradual slope that'll be more stable and
Even if they'd acted on the old dune permit and gone in there and done the work, they would have come in for a no dune permit. But even with a no dune permit, we got to go out and look, even technically a big gopher mound, once it vegetates, becomes a dune. I mean, almost anything with any contour to it in the GLO's eyes, if it's vegetated, becomes a dune. So it would require a new dune permit. They never acted on the original one, but like I said, blow sand, all of that.
So it looks like the mitigation is actually improving the existence of the current of the critical dunes in all honesty.
I've tried to point that out. In a lot of instances, the engineers can sometimes do a little bit better job than Mother Nature that just blows it around. They can place it in areas that low areas that provide in a lot of instances a greater level of protection than what Mother Nature does moving around.
I don't know, that's how I read this, I don't know.
yes. In general, that's what we try to do. We try to put in areas that really don't have a dune, which creates a dune that wasn't there before, or increase the height of existing dunes.
And I promise you that GLO looks at that probably more significantly than just about anything else. Is the compensation, is the mitigation improving the natural dune system? And they'll comment when it doesn't and make suggestions. Like I said, we only have a few engineers that we find that do this kind of work anymore, and they know the drill pretty well.
More questions, comments?
I have a question. This comes up in every single dune permit. Is dune hydrology. You'd explain that a little bit. Every single dune permit I've seen says dune hydrology will not be altered.
Adversely impacted.
How do you determine that?
I mean, within existing dune system, whether there's a bunch of them like is in this project or just on one individual lot, you're gonna have high spots or low spots that, collect water or drain water off. Unless you're, filling in a cut or a pass that would lead to the beach where you'd be, completely blocking drainage or doing something that's extreme, it's pretty hard to change the natural dune hydrology because it being sand, most of the water just soaks in anyway. So, but for the subdivision here, we're proposing to send all our drainage to the street away from the dunes. So we're not going to be sending any more water to the dunes that already going there. So.
Okay.
What ultimately ends up happening, Barney, we both know all the water ends up one or two places, either in the bays or in the Gulf. Like I said, we take the water that way. So the dune, as the water builds up, it ultimately percolates through, in a kind of the most perfect screening filtering system there is. And like I said, if enough water, like after the hurricane builds up behind those dunes, it just slowly, eventually just kind of percolates out and through. So
Right. Well, that's where you
it's a
find
great
your,
filter.
sweet water in the hills, in the dunes,
Correct.
in the mound. But you mentioned one example of how you can alter the dune hydrology. Like if there's a cut, you mean like a waterway has been created
Or
or
just something
something?
like basically access road.
Like a road.
That's pretty defined cut from the landward side of the dunes to the beach. If you were to fill something like that in, you potentially blocking some drainage, but
Right.
it'd be pretty.
So really it's just not an issue at all. Right?
No,
You just
to be honest, it's just one of
fill in the blank, right?
those statements that's there and, you'd really have to try to impact the dune hydrology. But no one really ever does anything that.
You got to remember that our coastal management plan mirrors the Natural Resource Act and the GLO in Texas. You have places in South Padre that can put a hotel in the dunes. So there are situations where the language is there. We don't see much here. Like I said, the rare existence of a road or cut like that could affect it. But the language is for the entire state of Texas, and there's areas where, they could build big structures that block the rain. And usually you'll find impacts to hydrology and something like that. We just don't normally see any kind of construction or
No.
projects that I can see that affect it
Yeah.
here. But again,
Okay.
the language is in statute and it might apply elsewhere. I just don't
Yeah.
think it doesn't normally affect us here.
Okay, I'll make this brief. Would water wells alter the dune hydrology? Let's suppose
I'm
there
not a
was.
groundwater engineer. I have no idea.
Sir,
I'm not a groundwater engineer. I have no idea.
I would think the dune hydrology would impact the water wells. Because
I
like
think
you
that'd be
said, that
more-
fresh water floats on top.
well, you can alter a water table by pulling on it real hard. I know that. So, okay, well, I yield.
I've got more questions than answers now. I don't know where you hit the groundwater for day.
It's out there, man.
Oh, I know. So
Well,
well,
that was,
Last June you did it.
And there's more wells all the time.
that was the darndest thing. I never realized it. Yeah, but till I
dug a pool.
jetted my own in and it's, the fresh water. Somebody said, no, that's all fresh water. It's not,
What's going on?
never even,
Dig a pool, you'll hit one quick.
Mhm.
It's also a good tide gauge.
Yeah.
Because it will come up and down with the tide.
I'm sorry, I'll try. Any other questions?
Any other commissioners have questions, comments?
Like I said, we did,
Want a motion?
Yeah, they have,
you have it, okay.
it's in the packet, the approval from the
Yeah.
reviewing engineers in your packet.
Make a motion to approve.
Marty Phelan motions to approve BFDP 22-001689.
Second,
Mike Down seconds the motion.
Leslie Smith,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Marty Phelan.
Yep.
Mike Dayon,
yes.
Nick Lorette.
Yes.
Barney Farley,
Yes,
Chad Schmidas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 5, Planning and Zoning Commission comments and items for future consideration.
That's a good answer.
Item number 6, with that, we're calling to adjourn the City of Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on August the 30th, 2022 at 6:57 PM. Oh,
5:57.
yeah, restate. 5:57.
I just thought it was way later than it was.
Well, you know what?
not even an
Oh,
hour.
well.
That's the feedback,
didn't.
update on.
You did
standing item,
not.
Standing item, standing item. feedback update. CPAC meeting, guys, just FYI, CPAC meeting on the
19th and 20th of September.
20th September, so it'll be before this meeting.
I think it's strange. I'm still.
Let me turn off everything. Give me a second.
Hi.
6,500 yards.
A while back.